Okay. I just think it's very interesting with a lot of what you said, and this is something that is we've never experienced before as people here. We're all of an age that we would never have experienced this coronavirus, and everything is everywhere you walk outside. If you're allowed outside, you have a mask and gloves, and it's so taken over. Can you imagine though if we didn't have the media telling us what to do, and the fact that we can sit here and discuss this? I mean, it would be so different if it was many, many years ago. More people would die because we wouldn't know about wearing the masks and the gloves and being in contact with each other. I mean, in some ways, we're so lucky to have this. And it's not to a point where the pandemic has set such fear into people that they're looting or doing anything crazy. So we're really a society across everywhere in the world where we're all experiencing the same thing, and in most cases reacting the same way. And that's so unusual in so many different societies, yet we've all chosen to react the same way. Sit in our homes, stay in our homes,
So what's
see
your
only
point?
the people that we're supposed to see.
So what is the point?
The point is that I just think that, I guess that instead of standing against the wall and only seeing one point of view, we've stepped back and we're all seem to be in some line where we're seeing a lot of the same things. We're observing things the same way and reacting the same way.
And what are you observing?
I'm observing that people are actually pretty calm, that people are following instructions, that people are not getting crazed. There's not going to be enough food. There's not going to be enough toilet paper. I mean, I'm not getting paid now. I have no money coming in, but I'm not panicking. I'll figure it out.
But this is you're in Israel. In America, yes, and in England, they're panicking, or they were panicking. And the comment I would like to make is, or the question I'd like to ask is, what can we learn from this experience? And nobody seems to be asking that question. What can we learn? Because the experience is what we've got. Is it avoidable? Could it have been avoidable? Was it artificially created? Is this something that was definitely created for a specific purpose? And what about the businesses that are closed down? Many of these businesses are not going to survive. And you may not be getting any money for 6 months, and then you'll be panicking. The point is this: it's not that we are doing as we are told. I have a problem with that. Because if you look at in England, the United Kingdom, they don't really know what to do. In America, you have a president who knows what to do, but there are people who oppose him all the time. So in fact, and in India, there's some big problems. There are many problems. I'm not interested in them. What I'm interested in is, what can I do as a human being? What can other human beings do to avoid the problem in the first place? When you look at the statistics, this is not even a pandemic. I'm very sad that the people have died, but in SARS and MERS viruses, which are that more died, and yet we didn't close the countries down. HIV, more people died, and they still die 20 years later. What, so what? The Spanish flu of 1918 killed millions. They didn't close the country down. So I'm not interested in that so much as I am in what can I do to boost my immune system so that I'm not affected by this. Because you don't catch this from somebody else. You only catch it if you're susceptible. And most people don't understand that most people are susceptible. Why are they susceptible? Well, look at what we eat. Dietary lifestyle. Oh.
Read that? That's cool.
Hey, look at this. Did you see?
Yeah, unlimited minutes.
Hey!
Yay!
Love it, love it, love it. Oh, isn't that incredible? I'm telling you, I like this company. I'm really tickled. I think that it is such a wonderful a service whereby we can have this in different parts of the world, and it's not going to cost $10,000 to go over and give a lecture. We could do
Yeah.
it. Absolutely incredible. So, Jody, I appreciate what you said, and I think that this media is wonderful. What we're using, all media is wonderful if only it's used for the highest good of the people. If you look at the news and the general media run by all the media of the world run by 6 corporations, such as Facebook and Google and all the newspapers, you will find that they're all causing fear and panic. It's all negative, such as such and such a person says, you know, there's going to be 100,000 deaths in England. How do they bloody know that there's going to be 100,000 deaths? And nobody says, you know what, if we do this, we can actually, there's a good chance we can help ourselves. They don't do that. Oh no, that won't work. So the media is a weapon in the wrong hands and a boon to those when it's in the right hands. And this is why me and a lot of other people around the world are using this kind of media to say, look, we have a problem, but there are solutions. And some of the solutions demand that we make changes in our lives. After all, if you perform the same action and you get results that you don't like, and you repeat the action and then you pray to God, give me different results, you are insane. That's what Albert Einstein said, and I agree. If you don't like the results of your actions, all you've got to do, change your action, and the results will change by themselves. Everybody's praying to God, help me, help me. And yet they continue doing the very thing that harms them. So what are those things? I think they're negative thoughts, they're judgments, judging people, criticizing people, allowing themselves to fall foul of fear, intimidation by others, being bullied, not realizing that they've got, I'll give you an example. When I was 12 years of age, I was at school in South Africa where I was raised. And the woodworking teacher said, everybody's going now to make a nightstand, bedside table lamp, a little lamp stand out of wood, and you put the electric fittings and then you bring it finished and I'll grade you. Wow, I was good at that. I loved that. Hi, Aileen. I love that.
Hi, Tony.
I love that. So I made it by myself. I'm very good at that kind of thing. And I brought it to the teacher. It was very good. It was carved, it was sanded, lacquered, electric fitting, electric cable, a switch, everything. And he looked at this thing and he said to me, you did not make this, did you? And I said, what do you mean? Of course I did. He said, you're lying to me. And because you're lying to me, I'm failing you. You get an F. Now, I did make that. Nobody helped me. I did it. I've done other things that I've made. I've even been able to work out how to get on the Zoom thing. So, you know, I can do these things. But what happened was that teacher, because he was a figure of authority, and I was taught to accept what figures of authority say, parents, teachers, the police, the government, blah, blah, blah. I accepted his statement. I was a liar and I was a cheat. And for 40 years, 35 years, 45 years, I lived my life believing subconsciously that I was a liar, a cheat, and I didn't deserve success. And I made and lost 2 fortunes. Everything that I did, when it got to the point of success, I destroyed it. Until I had a hypnotherapy session. And I found out what the problem was. And I got rid of that program. I changed it. It's like a computer. The mind is like a computer. I'm going to talk about it on Saturday. You don't, if the program is not working, change the program. It's easy. It's very easy. You may need help from somebody, but even if you don't, it's easy. You can do it. What is more difficult is running your life according to what's in the subconscious mind when it's destroying your life. And you just carry on and you pray. And all you do is make some changes. So when we are able to find our truth that is constantly changing because we are stepping back from the wall, so to speak, and seeing more of the wall, changing a belief system, changing a program, resolving karma. Does anybody understand what karma is here? I'm sure you do. Karma, the law of cause and effect. Whatever you do, whatever you think, whatever you say, creates karma, positive or negative karma, whatever it is. And if you do not resolve it in this lifetime, you will be faced with that same karma, handicaps with extensions, the next life, the next incarnation, until you get it right. I know about this because I've actually had the ability through various means to experience a number of my previous lifetimes. And I can tell you, this is why I would love in our educational system that children are taught all this that I'm talking about, consciousness, conscious awareness, karma, because when somebody kills somebody or steals something, they believe that if nobody saw them, they get away with it. Well, you don't get away with anything. Absolutely nothing. And when you are born and you don't have arms or legs, or you are with some blight or whatever, oh, poor, do you know what karma that represents? Maybe that person did things to other people. All these pedophiles that we are hearing about at the moment, they have absolutely no idea what they're in for. Maybe it is a vast subject, but it's all to do with truth. It's all to do with what is your truth? What is my truth? And ultimately, what is universal truth? Because the universal nature of truth is the unifying aspect of all truth. So as we raise our consciousness and we are able to be on a higher plane of perception, a higher plane of knowledge, we are unified with everybody. Much more than we are now. Now we are separated. And we think that we can harm this person, we can steal from them, and it doesn't do anything to me, and it does. So truth being relative, it is also universal. The most profound method of healing oneself is to, first of all, make a choice. Because too many people go like this. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. Oh, well, that's the way it is. Well, that's not the way it is. The way it is what we choose it to be. And people who are of weak minds, weak resolve, battered by life, have listened to the song from Les Miserables, I dreamed a dream. And the last words were, and life killed my dream. Many people are like that. They are just overwhelmed. Now, this is the time to be inspired. This is the time to be motivated by others who can come along and say, come on, I'll help you up. I'll help you up. What we need to do here is make a different choice. So let's make a different choice. And most people don't realize that they have the ability to have a different choice. We have free will. I recently, last year, I met somebody on the kibbutz where I live. Yes.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yes.
but it's past 40.
Yes, they've given more time. They've given more time, Abigail. My wife is telling me that I've reached the end of my 45 minutes, and we've got more time. So I don't know when it'll peter out, but let's make hay while the sun shines, and I'll be happy to have your comments. I met this lady, and she says, you know, we must talk some more. I'd like to talk about the spiritual stuff. And I said, well, the work that I do is I provide information to help people help themselves. You just do it yourself. She said, oh, no. I don't want to do it myself. I want to be told what to do. So I did my research, and I find that there are far too many people who prefer to be told what to do. They feel some comfort when somebody to whom they have given their power, which could be the government, parents, children, a husband, a wife, or whatever, doesn't matter. And then they're told what to do. They feel, oh, you know, I'm comfortable. But unfortunately, by giving your power away, you disenfranchise yourself, and you end up holding the sticky end of the stick always, always. Because nobody really has jurisdiction over you unless you give it to them. So the idea is to take your power back, re-enfranchise yourself, make a different choice. And then when you've made a different choice, you have an intention. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, how am I going to do it? Okay, my intention is to go down this path or follow this or whatever it is. Now comes the tricky part. Now you require courage and tenacity, because there are all these forces, your own programming, your own vulnerability, your own weaknesses, those who don't want to see you enfranchised, strong, sovereign, independent. So you get all these forces that try to dissuade you, courage and tenacity. And then once you've set course and you are determined and you are courageous, then allow it to work itself out, allow it to follow itself out, go with the flow. This is a basic truth that is of such profundity that most people really do not understand that they are able to change their lives completely. If they're not happy with it, if they're not happy with the circumstances, they are to change their truth. Any comments so far?
Oh, I'll make a comment if someone else is ready to go. I think you're absolutely right, but not everybody is a leader. And no matter what you tell them, even though it will benefit them to take the power, some people just can't seem to do it.
No.
Because it's not who they are.
Right. Now, this is a very good point. The only person one is to lead is oneself. We are not here to tell anybody what to do. We are to be the example. So if you are with somebody who's suffering, you say to them, look, you have the ability to make different choices. How can I help you in this respect? It is for them to choose. It's not for you to tell them what to choose. And if they do not choose, that's their choice. Now, according to statistics that I'm not sure that I totally accept, but I am leaning towards it. In science, there is a concept called critical mass, which means to say that when a percentage of water, liquid water, begins to freeze, it automatically causes the rest of it to freeze. It has to reach a certain critical mass. Now, in terms of critical mass and consciousness, the percentage is supposedly 1%. Now, 1% of 7.3 billion people on this planet is still 73 million people. It's a lot of people. But if 73 million people start leading themselves, that example will help others to do likewise. We can only teach by example. There is no other way, because everybody is their own teacher. Everybody is their own guru. I'm not a teacher. I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just giving some information that I have been able to accumulate experience, and I'm sharing it with you. And whatever you do with that information, it's your choice.
I'd like to say something.
Please, Aileen.
Okay, hi. Okay, so, at first you were talking about standing next to the wall, and that's your consciousness, and then stepping back from the wall. And I just want to comment on what Jody said, because what she said was that you can see that people's reaction all over the world is pretty similar. So I think what's happened here, because of social media, because of our ability to communicate, not just at the wall, we're not just in our space where we were born surrounded by a small community anymore. We now have access to the whole world. We've expanded our consciousness. So we've learned that not only that, okay, here comes this, let's just use the corona pandemic. Here comes this thing, and what is my reaction to it? My nose to the wall. Now I can look around, not just step back away from the wall, 1 step, 2 steps, or 3 steps, but many steps, and I can see what is the reaction of people all over the world. And with that, I think that gives a person more choices, not just more choice, but also more information. So I can look and see the bad news, and I can look and see the good news. How many people have gotten ill? How many people have died? How many people have recovered? What drugs work? What drugs don't work? What information is false? What information is true? And how people are reacting to it. How people are ignoring it, or how people are following it, or how people are being creative with it, people who are reacting in a way of becoming more internal. Like I see a lot of people who are looking within, and they're looking at their lives, and they are making changes, and they are learning from this. And there are other people who are simply reacting to it. And I think you're always going to find that. You're going to find people who are going to say, tell me what to do, or give me choices, and then I'll decide. And I think we have more choices now than, say, in 1918 when we had the pandemic then. And also we have people who say, wow, I'm going to use this as time to be with myself and to reflect and to grow, because I don't usually have that time because I'm busy doing this and doing that. So I see a lot of different reactions. I don't see so much panic. Maybe it'll come, maybe it won't. But I think that we in some ways, we have expanded our consciousness just by the fact that we have more, we've expanded, we've stepped away from the wall more and more and more through the media, which the media, I agree, has a lot of negativity, but there's a lot of stuff that's positive with it as well. Now, what we do with that information, how we use it, is really up to us. That's something that's different. That's something that now we have to take all of this information and we have to internalize it, and we have to say, what does this mean to me? What's going to happen to me if this continues for 6 months? What's going to happen to me if I don't have a job in 6 months? How can I start now going within myself to figure out how I can cope with this? What is going to be the worst case scenario for me? How can I elevate myself to, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, to grow and to learn from this?
Let me comment on that. The research that I have made, as casual as it is, the majority of the people are not doing what you have just said. The majority of the people, unfortunately, are just staying at home under protest, and they are not able to think any deeper than the problem that is presented to them. This concept, this idea of being responsible for oneself, for actually not necessarily relying on the government. I mean, if you were in England at the moment, you would be quite pissed off because they still haven't got their testing stations set up running properly yet. And they are mishandling it. And if you look at America, you've got a president who seems to know what he's doing, but he has many people are criticizing him and are trying to prevent him from doing what he. So there is all this conflict going on. Now, I understand that because this pandemic is, in my opinion, is not a pandemic. I can quote you pandemics that did not have this, and I mentioned it before. Before you came on. The one that comes to mind was the Spanish flu in 1918, where millions died, and no businesses were closed. Nothing was closed. And today they've closed everything, countries, when a very, very small number of people are actually dying. As awful as it is, as horrible as it is, these people are generally people who are in a particular category. And if you look at Italy, you will see that the statistics show that the majority of the people who died there were 67 years of age and above. Now, what does that mean? It seems to mean that this particular virus is targeting people who have weakened immune systems. Now, that's logical. So why don't we talk about boosting our immune system? You talk about the drugs, but one of the CDC director of America is completely going against everything that Trump is saying. Trump is actually saying hydroxychloroquine could be very helpful, and Fauci is saying absolutely rubbish. So the public don't really know what's going on, and I feel that the situation is worse than it need be. Now, I don't know whether the cure is going to be worse than the disease, because if countries close down, and this is my truth, and businesses close down, the probability is that there's going to be many, many casualties in business, which means jobs lost. And then what's going to happen? If the economy of a country is really damaged significantly, how will the people survive?
Well, look at it this way. Look at it this way. Look at it as a war, okay? Now, basically what's happened is we've been bombed out. Our countries, they haven't yet, but let's look at it, say worst case scenario. Our country is bombed. We were a prosperous country. This has happened many times through history. And now we're totally bombed out. What's going to happen? People are going to die and other people are going to rise up victorious because they're going to be creative and they're going to find a way to use the situation to come out of it, to help themselves and to help other people. So I think whether you call it a pandemic or don't, we have information and we have ability to see beyond what they were able to in 1918. And I think there's the reason why there aren't as many deaths. And that is because they knew the solution was, at least for now, because they don't know everything, is to shut down, isolate. Let's figure this out. Let's not, in places where they use the herd mentality like England, and they didn't shut down right away, you have more deaths. You have more people with the virus. Now, I already know a few people in England who have recovered and who are older or who have underlying conditions. My mother-in-law is one of them. But here in Las Vegas, we were shut down immediately, and we don't have as many cases and as many deaths per capita. So I do think people are using the information. And I do agree with you that most people are going to follow like sheep because that's the way we are. But I do think that people more and more their consciousness has been raised to some level from this. It may not be that they're saying, like you're saying, I agree. How can I boost my immune system? How can I change? But that's something that takes more and more and more knowledge that I can make that change and confidence that I can make that change.
Well, what I would like to say, Aileen, is this. I don't want to get caught up on the coronavirus because as far as I'm concerned, it's just one symptom amongst many that indicates that our society is out of balance. And that is when people are able to find their own truth, and that truth is for their highest good and the highest good of others, there will be an improvement in lifestyle. In the planet today, take away the coronavirus. In America, the average family, the parents, are working 2-3 jobs. This pandemic is just a distraction of the economic disaster that many people are experiencing all over the world. And my platform is that when we stop being distracted by what's actually going on, and we start to work on ourselves. You are a yoga teacher, so let's do more yoga and improve the health of the body. Let's meditate and allow the mind to transcend itself and bring in more energy from that area we call the source of thought, and we are able to heal, resolve the limitations that prevent us from thinking in a balanced way, acting in a balanced way. Let us change our dietary lifestyle. And I don't want to get into that just yet. I'm going to talk about this another time because I'm a vegan. I used to be a meat eater, and then I became a vegetarian, and now I'm a vegan. And it's got nothing to do with any of the religious laws, absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. And first of all, my health has improved enormously. I'm 74 and I'm healthier than many people younger than me. I don't take any drugs. I don't have anything wrong with me that I'm aware of. And when I do have something wrong with I fix it myself using Ayurveda or homeopathic stuff. I go to the doctor, he shakes his head. Why do you come here? I said, I just come here for the blood test. And he says, well, I'll give you a story. I had high cholesterol. He wanted me to go on statin drugs. I said, no, 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 no. I'll see you in 6 months. I get a blood test every 6 months. I went back after 6 months. My cholesterol dropped 80 points from 300 to 220, which is acceptable. But then, you know, the pharmaceutical companies create these parameters anyway, and I don't trust that. But anyway, I dropped it. How did I do it? I said, I took turmeric. His eyes rolled back. He went back in his chair, couldn't understand that. Another time I went with my wife, we had high blood sugar. He says, my God, you've got high blood pressure. He said, my God, you've got high blood sugar. You are pre-diabetic. Oh my God. I said, we'll see you in 6 months. We went back 6 months later. Our blood sugar was normal. He said, what did you do? I said, well, the first thing I did was educate myself. I wanted to know why our blood sugar was high. And as it happens, I read some very interesting articles and letters, papers. One was from an American doctor who told me that, and this was general, the test that they use, the A1C, the A1C blood sugar test that they use as a standard is notoriously unreliable. Oh, I thought that's interesting. They're using an unreliable test to put you on drugs or not. And then I found that all I needed to do was take some iron supplement, because when I've learned this, when your blood is, when you're low in iron, the blood cells, the red cells, normally live for 6 weeks. And when they are low in iron, they live for another 6 weeks. And living for 3 months, they accumulate more sugar, which gives the A1C reading a false reading of sugar. So I said to the doctor, look, I'm low in iron. I took iron, it's fine. So the reason I'm saying this is the doctor's truth was not my truth. And I educated myself and I improved myself. Most people don't do that. And when I talk to them, they're just not interested enough to look after themselves. Now
That's true. I totally agree with you.
Right.
Everything you've just said, I completely agree with you.
Right. So I'm banking on the people. I mean, you do yoga. You know that most people are, you know, they do it once or twice and then they don't come back. What I'm banking on here is to give lectures, talks, discussions, and say, come on, guys, come on, let's inspire each other to change our course. Let's chart a course of our ship and go in a direction that's going to improve our health naturally, that's going to remove the limitations that prevent us from being happy, prevent us from being prosperous, and live really much better lives. And by our example, we have an effect. For instance, I'll give you an idea. I'll give you an example.
I agree with you. I have to go because I have to go teach, Tony. Thank you.
See you next time.
Chag Sameach. Happy Pesach, everyone.
Eileen, because I'm having trouble with the emails, check my website for the next date and the time, the website.
Okay. All right. Be well. Be well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Say hi.
Bye.
So the platform that I'm on is, if you're not really happy, if you're not really healthy, if you're not happy with what's in the world, going on in the world, did you, has something, oh yeah, there you go. You can see my website, AnthonyAltmanBooks.com. Check that for the details of the next one in case my emails and what have you don't get through to you. My platform is, if you're not happy, if you're not feeling very well, if you feel that your life can improve, then there is something you are to change. Now, what could that be? The way I think? Now, I'll talk more about that on Saturday, but the way I think, do you know that thoughts are waves of energy? You would agree with me, right? Does everybody agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts are a wave of energy. Now, let's say, oh, I'm going to do this business and it's going to be a great success. That's a lovely thought, don't you think? It's positive, right? How many of us say, me, successful? Look at the work I've got to do. This is hard work. Most of us, including me for most of my life, did exactly that. So now, if you know anything about science, and I'm not a scientist, I'm just a student and I learn, you have a wave of energy, which is, I'm going to have a successful business. And then, who, me, successful? Then you get another wave of energy, which has similar amplitude, but it's the opposite. Guess what happens? They cancel each other out and you're left with nothing. A hole from a bagel. Right. Hole from a bagel. Nothing, zero, zilch. And people say, oh, but you know, I had a thought, I was optimistic, and it didn't work, because they're not aware of their thoughts. So if we practice mindfulness meditation or any system, technique, modality that encouraged us, trained us, helped us to become more aware of what we're thinking, how we're thinking. Some people say the glass is half full, some it's half empty. So this is the classical example of the optimist and the pessimist. If we can see what our weaknesses are, and they say, okay, I've got this and I do this, I do that. How can I change? How can I change? That question will open a door. Somebody may enter your life. It may even be this video. This 74-year-old guy who might be saying something that triggers a thought, that plants a seed, and then you become empowered to take that seed, to take that light switch, and take the bulb out, the 40-watt bulb, and put a bloody 100-watt bulb in, or a 1,000-watt bulb in. Increase you have the choice to do that. I'm not special. I go to the doctor and I look after my health. I'm not special. I just have to learn, that's all. But the first thing is, I'm not going to be told what to do by the doctor or by the government. Why? Because the government is full of people whose consciousness is so limited, and they make laws that I've got to live by. It's crazy, isn't it? And the leaders of the countries are nothing more, believe me when I tell you, nothing more than the reflection of the consciousness of the people who put them there. So who put them there? The people who voted for them and the people who did not vote for them. The people who don't vote. I don't vote. I don't like it. I don't vote. Okay. So you're giving power to the people who do vote, and you've got leaders and you don't like them. Who put them there? And then gasoline prices go up. Not so much in America. America, you're very fortunate. In Europe, in Israel, too bloody expensive. So why don't we say, okay, there's 3 or 4 petroleum companies here in Israel. Why don't we, all of us people, say we're going to buy from Alon, and the Yellow and the Sonol and all that, go to hell. How long do you think it'll take before those other boycotted businesses will start dropping their prices? We are very powerful people, but we give our power away to everybody. It was proved here in Israel not long ago, 3 or 4 years, The staple diet in Israel is cottage cheese. I don't eat cottage cheese, but it's the staple. And the price went up and everybody went crazy and said, right, we're not buying it anymore. Within a week, the price came down. 3 months later, the price went up and nobody did anything. I guess they ran out of steam. We are very powerful people. But the first thing we've got to do is exert that power on ourselves and improve ourselves. Otherwise, we will be no better than the leaders, because we're all a little dysfunctional. We're all a little bit out of balance. Why? Look at our lives. Are we happy? Am I healthy? Is everything tickety-boo, just wonderful? No, it's not. Why? Because I have created it that way. Oh, I don't like that. How can I change? Well, what I did, I went to all sorts of seminars. I did many things, and I learned. I became a hypnotherapist at the age of 54. I was the oldest student in the school. And I learned an incredible amount, and I've helped a lot of people, and I have been helped. Keep learning. Yesterday, I went through hell because I'm in the process of change. It's not really always comfortable, but because I am so orientated towards positive change, I am willing to go through it. When you get a splinter, it hurts. When the doctor takes the splinter out, it hurts. But then the splinter's out. We are in the most significant time in the history of humanity, this cycle. Now, what is this cycle? I think it's as short as 25,000 years, the precession of the equinoxes, 25,000 plus a few hundred years. I don't remember the exact time. And we are coming out of the Piscean age, astrologically speaking, and we're moving into the Aquarian age. Now, in terms of India, they've got the Kali Yuga. We're coming out of that. It's a bit more complicated, so I don't know. The point that I'm trying to make is we're at a point, a significant point of change. And change is always disruptive. And it's always painful because most of us resist. We resist change. The devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. What's going to happen down the road? Will it be worse? When you start thinking like that, you might as well go home. Go to bed, take a pill, wake up tomorrow and start again. If we cannot maintain a degree of positivity, then why bother? And if we feel that our lives and humanity is worth the effort, then we gather like this and we talk about it. And then we consider what changes we can make in our own lives, because our own lives are the only domain, the only jurisdiction we have is our own lives. And when more people improve themselves and become a little happier, a little bit more prosperous, a bit more balanced, other people will notice. I'll give you a very good example. Has anybody here read the book, The Power of Now? The Power of Now. Right? No. Eckhart Tolle, okay. I suggest you read the book, The Power of Now, by a gentleman called Eckhart, E-C-K-A-R-T Tolle. The Power of Now. I'm going to write it down. The Power of Now. Now, the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. The Power of, delete that, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Okay, there we go. This guy was born in Germany, his parents divorced, he lived with his father in Spain, he ended up in England, living in London, totally depressed and suicidal. And he lived his life on the verge of suicide, basically. And one night he had an experience. And he didn't know what it was. So he went to the park in London and he sat on a bench for 2 years. He sat on the bench, processing and integrating this experience. What he had was a final release of that which held him down, that limited him. And he was like much more liberated. And during the 2 years that he was sitting on the bench, processing and integrating this, not talking to anybody, he says this in the foreword of his book, or the introduction of his book. Somebody he didn't know came up to him and spoke to him while he was sitting on the bench. And he said, you know, I don't know what it is that you've got, but whatever it is, I want some of it. Now, that spectator saw this guy reflecting some energy, some peace, some balance. That's all we have to do. When enough of us are reflecting peace and balance, universal love, compassion, harmony, when enough of us are able to do that, wars become obsolete. Because the natural flow of life is always towards more and more. So when we have more trial and tribulation, that's what we get. When we have more of peace, harmony, love, compassion, we get more and more of that. The universe will always give what we want. And on this planet at the moment, what is required seems to be chaos, suffering. I don't want to suffer. People say to me, I don't want to suffer. I say, well, what are you doing to prevent yourself suffering? Well, what do you mean? What do you eat? Blah, 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 blah. How do you think? Blah, 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 blah. I said, do you realize that there are things for you to change in your life? Oh, I'm not going to change. Have you ever heard of it? I'm not changing. Why should I change? Everybody else should change, but not me. This is the problem. Mahatma Gandhi said, we are to be the change we wish to see in the world. Starts with us.
Indeed.
Starts with us. Incredible, isn't it, Sarah?
Yes.
Starts with us. And
Yes.
it's not easy, is it, Sarah? It's not so easy.
No. Constant vigilance.
But I think you would agree with me that as we make progress, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Life does get better.
It does.
It does get better.
More light kind of opens up for more light, because each little increment of more consciousness begets more. It becomes a momentum type.
Right.
As long as you stay diligent and stay forward moving.
Right. Well, it's like everything else. If you wish to learn to meditate, or you wish to learn to drive a car, you wish to learn yoga, you learn it and you keep practicing. And as you practice,
That's right.
you get
That's
better
right.
at it. You get better at it.
That's right.
And to practice to be a better human being, in my opinion, there is nothing finer than that. So the reason I'm talking like this is because there is a negative side to what's happening on the planet at the moment. There are children missing. There are pharmaceutical companies that are taking advantage of humans. People are dying unnecessarily. There are different pandemics on our planet. Many of them come from the pharmaceutical companies, the military, the industrial, the banks, the finances, and nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to know what's going on. And we are heading towards mayhem, major issues. And this coronavirus is just bringing it very much to our attention. And we can change this if we are willing to change ourselves, improve ourselves. And it's a process, but once we start that process, you can't go back. You can't go back to how you were unless you are completely insane. Because as life gets better, as you cannot change from that course of action. The problem is to get people to change from suffering to self-improvement, self-empowerment, because they don't believe it's possible. They believe that their destiny, their entire life depends on others, the government, the pharmaceuticals, the medical. And I have to tell you, this is not true. It's not my truth. When I learn that a minimum of 250,000 people die every year because of doctors' mistakes, drug mistakes, errors in the operating theater, the hospital, and it's supposedly much higher, but let's take the minimum, 250,000. It's more than the coronavirus, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody seems to care. So why do they care about this? I'll tell you why they care. Because you can't leave your home. Because you can't go to work. Now you care. Because if this goes on for much longer, it's serious. It's serious already. There are companies that are not going to survive this. Okay. What's the lesson here? Something is being mismanaged. How did this coronavirus, remember, before we had H1N1, that was a few years ago. And before that was SARS. And before that was MERS. And before that was HIV. How many pandemics do we have to have in order to learn that something's not right on this planet? How many do you need? So what could be wrong? Is it possible that others are taking advantage of the fact that we're willing to give our power away and we're being manipulated? I would say so. I would say that we're slaves, actually. We're all slaves to the banks. You know, you give them money to hold and they charge you money to hold your money for you that they can use to loan other people at 10, 12%, and you get nothing. Nobody thinks about that. You're giving them the money, they're making money on your money, you don't get anything for it. Isn't that incredible? Something's wrong with this picture. And the picture is we are willing to be led by the nose because we don't feel good enough. We don't feel worthy enough. We don't feel well enough. And all that change, all we have to do is make a different choice, and then an intention, and then a bit of courage, and then tenacity, and be with people who support you. Together we could support each other. This would be quite novel, don't you? Quite novel. So I don't know whether anybody else has got much else to say. I'm very grateful that you have actually decided to take, let's see, it's an hour and a half we've been talking, so we're getting very good value. And I feel that it's wonderful that you're doing this. I actually respect and honor all of you. I think it's wonderful that you're doing this.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
You're very kind. May I suggest that if you're interested in, and this is just the first one, it's going to get more interesting because I'm getting the hang of it. The next one is about the subconscious mind. I really recommend that because we've just talked about making choices. The question is, how do you make a different choice if you've got a program running that's keeping you with what you've got now? And
Yes.
what I would like to do is to share with you, because this is my area of expertise. This is my subconscious mind. I've studied it, and yet I still know, very few of us know. But I tell you, I know enough to help myself, and I know enough that may actually help you to make different choices. And so I'm going to talk about that at length. Maybe we'll get.
Will it be at the same time on Saturday?
Yes, is that okay with you?
Yes.
Yes, Saturday. And it's going to be the same time. I will post the ID number for the meeting and the password on my website. I will email you. I will put it on my Facebook. But something very strange is happening with Google at the moment. I don't know what it is. I sent out 400 emails and they all came back twice. Blocked, blocked, blocked. Now, a few may have blocked me because, you know, they don't want to know, but these were people I know, you know. So something's very, very strange going on, and I cannot send an individual email. So what I would do is I tell you what, I have a way of doing this. It'll be on my website, and eventually I'm going to have a program a month in advance, and I will put it in my monthly newsletter, which I have not been sending out because there's been no interest, virtually very little interest. If people go onto my website and sign on the monthly newsletter, all this information will be sent to them at the first of each month, and then they've got it all. If you want to do that. Otherwise, go to the website. Otherwise, hopefully my emails will get to you. And if you haven't heard from me, email me. I'm giving you my email now. I'm giving you my email. Hold on. Okay, AnthonyAltmanBooks@gmail.com. This is my email. Can you see it?
Yes.
Thank you. This is my email that you can, if you're not hearing from me, then email me, and also tell others. Tell people who want to improve their lives, because the information is to help people improve their lives. This is the whole point. So
Thank you.
Let's see if we can do something together. Thank you all very, very much for joining in.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you very, very
Love
much.
to Abigail.
I will. Thank you.
Yes, Abigail.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
We
Bye-bye.
love you, Tony.
Bye,
Thank you.
Joram.
Bye.
Bye-bye.